Donald Trump is saying Portland's a war zone. My wife Meg was just there. No, it's not. You have Kristi Noem standing on the roof of the ICE facility staring down at 3 protesters and a guy in a chicken suit saying that everyone who's claiming that Portland is not a war zone is lying.
We got a caller from a 714 area code. 714 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, brother, this is Max Alvarez calling in from Baltimore. But the area code is my old Southern California, Orange County number. So shout out to the 714.
There you go. Max, how are you doing? I was not expecting to hear from you today. It's great hearing from you, man.
Yeah, bro. Hey, man, I'm here listening to the show. You know, I love your guys' work, and it's vital in these times. So, yeah, I was, showering and listening to the conversation about the dollar store workers. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a really great conversation, and I just wanted to call in kind of quickly, because, I remember on my show, Working People, interviewing a number of folks from the Step Up Louisiana campaign as well. And I was really excited to hear the kind of conversation that you were having with the brilliant author at Capitol in Maine. And I want to just sort of like tease out a couple more of the points that I think actually speak to the last caller's concerns about, we are facing, an existential crisis in multiple senses right now, like not just a political existential crisis in like, what the hell are we? What is America under this new regime? But also, an economic crisis, like the capacity for working people to make a living was already, barely existent in this country. And it's about to, we're about to fall off a major cliff. As the previous caller was saying, not just with this shutdown and the exhaustion of SNAP and the Medicare premium or the ACA premiums like doubling in a week. Like it's going to be a massive wallop to poor and working people across the country, red counties, blue counties. Like that is a crisis. The real question right now is like, how are we prepared to respond to it? And I want to sort of zero in on the dollar store question as one example among many that can sort of like give us a direction, I think, because, what I'm seeing going around the country, talking to working people in different, states, different workplace struggles, people living in areas affected by, industrial pollution, all manner of working class people dealing with all manner of working class issues that put our lives and our livelihoods at hazard. This would seem like, the moment when a real, working class movement against gangster authoritarianism and, capitalist, suicide, like civilizational suicide, that we should have a pretty damn good argument for why we cannot go farther down this road and workers need to stand together in every fashion to fight against it. But we are so alienated from each other. We are so beaten down by the conditions of living, and we are so impacted by the screens through which we relate increasingly to each other and to the outside world that, we don't have a coherent, working class consciousness in this country. And that is a key issue that common struggle in the areas in which we live is the antidote. And, every poor and working class community has a damn dollar store in it at this point. And why that's so important is because in this moment, we need identifiable villains and we need sort of common terrains of struggle that can bring in different stakeholders who are impacted by those villains in different ways. And that's what Step Up Louisiana is really doing with this dollar store campaign. I was so impressed by the fact that they were working with dollar store workers, but also dollar store customers, faith leaders in these communities. Like, everyone has a reason for why these, stores are a scourge. The author you interviewed mentioned it. Like, customers are their safety is just as precarious when they enter these understaffed, overburdened stores with no security guards as employees are. And that's what employees told me as well. But I think the one thing I guess I would just offer to add to the great conversation y'all had is that we got to move beyond the primary cause of improving the lives and working conditions and wages of the workers at those stores. Like, that is a critical component, but we need to hitch that and all other, organizing that starts at the shop floor and talks about the wages and working conditions of working people. We have to be able to hook that into a clear, powerful class narrative about what we're up against and how different fights on this front are all combining in a larger united front against the forces that are destroying our lives, livelihoods, and the world that gives us life. And so I think dollar stores are one example among many where you can actually bring, disaffected, disunified, alienated members of a poor working class community together out of a common cause that they all have some connection with. But that common cause can't just be, we got to help these workers at these dollar stores. That's got to be part of it. But we got to be able to bridge the divide between that struggle and the struggle of those of us living in these food deserts where this is the only store available to us, so on and so forth. You get the point. But, I think that every shop floor struggle right now, and maybe we can do a longer segment sometime down the road because I'll shut up and cede my time. But I guess that's the larger point that I'm making, is that every shop floor struggle, every union struggle, every labor struggle, can no longer just exist in the realm of prescribed labor concerns. It has to be hooked into a larger class narrative of the working class saving itself and our world and our future from these monsters who are destroying us at our jobs, destroying the climate, destroying the economy, destroying our fellow workers in countries around the world for pillage and profit. Nothing is going to seem adequate unless we are building that sort of broad, we're connecting these issues, but in ways that actually make sense. We can't just say, oh, this struggle is related to that struggle. People need to feel those connections, and they need to have pathways as stakeholders in this fight to enter the united front that we need to build to take this on.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
That's so right. And, I see openings like what Step Up Louisiana is doing to try to do stuff like that. And, the No Kings rallies across the country have been inspiring because so many people have come out, and part of the good thing about them is that that they are bringing together people who are upset about different things. Some people came out to the No Kings rallies because they were upset about the shutdown. Some people came out because they were upset about tariffs increasing prices. Some people came out because they were upset because they were federal employees who have had basically, everything that they've ever fought for taken away. Right. But I have been, and so that's great. But at the same time, I'm seeing, the Republicans just continuing to dig in and allow this stuff to happen and not moving on. It's the Democrats with the shutdown thing are basically just asking for Republicans to take the noose off of their own neck, and they're not doing it. And it's really, it's so, I don't know, it's it's been disheartening for me seeing, so little movement on so many different issues. But one of the things we talked about with the reporter, with these pre-majority unions in dollar stores, is they have been able to make movement, and not insignificant movement. And so, doing what we can to tie stuff together and to, make sure that we're claiming wins when we do have them, I think is really important, to make sure that people, continue to have hope and they don't get hopeless, because the hopelessness and being kind of resigned to things happening to you rather than being an actor in history yourself is sort of, that's what the bosses and the billionaires and the corporate class want, right? Is they want us to be resigned to whatever they want to do rather than us, deciding to be actors.
Yeah,
but I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, or if I was just rambling.
No, I got tons, baby. I mean, like, as always, that was, beautifully and powerfully and correctly put. And in fact, I would say that, another key element of this, I mean, like, first and foremost, like, what you said is absolutely true. And, like, part of that is just the inebriation of the perception of total power that Trump and the MAGA right have right now. Right? Like, Steve frickin' Bannon could not go on, television and say matter-of-factly, oh, Trump's going to have a third term. People just better get used to that fact. Like, you don't say that, with that kind of confidence unless you are, again, drunk off your own sense of untouchable power, which, the MAGA right has a lot of reason to feel right now, because their appointees or elected officials control all three branches of government, not just at the Washington, D.C. level, but I mean, we got Trump appointees stocking the judicial circuit all over the damn country. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is basically a Trump rubber stamp machine at this point. So every legal victory it feels like we get just goes, like, they've built a system to inoculate themselves from first the pathetic, meek resistance of the Democratic Party, which barely exists, as you rightly point out, but to also inoculate themselves from, popular backlash. Like, let's also acknowledge the fact that, like, a lot of what they're doing is historically unpopular, but they do not care. That does not matter to them. And so the question is why, right? A, because they have the power to not care. That's part of it. B, and this is a point that I think is often lost, but, like, they have a confidence in their ability to fabricate the realities that justify their policies. And, like, this is a new evolution of a long-standing problem with authoritarians in government and in the world of private industry. Is, you lie your way into, like, just brute forcing a fake reality into something that people just accept, by snuffing out, evidence to the contrary, snuffing out dissenting voices, pushing from the top down these false narratives about, like, every worker who's tried to unionize has faced an employer saying, we don't have the money. And the job of every organizing unit is to say, yes, you do. That's a lie, right? I mean, we're kind of dealing with a similar situation where Donald Trump is saying, Portland's a war zone. My wife Meg was just there. No, it's not. Like, you have Kristi Noem standing on the roof of the ice facility, staring down at, like, three protesters and a guy in a chicken suit, saying that everyone who's claiming that Portland is not a war zone is lying. And, like, this is a really, like, I think we need to take the media side of this power grab and move to authoritarianism very seriously, because people's politics always flow downstream from the reality that they believe that they're living in. And so that hooks back into the previous point I was making about one of the things I'm seeing from the field, from going around the country, talking to different people in red states, blue states, small towns, big cities, is that we are all becoming more alienated from each other. Our social worlds have gotten smaller over the past 10, 15 years. That accelerated dramatically with COVID. What also accelerated with COVID was our dependence on screens to mediate our connection to each other and to the world outside of our own physical sphere. And now when you see these billionaire oligarch-owned tech platforms, these billionaire oligarch-owned mainstream media platforms, they are buying up the means of communication and the means of perception in this country to try to, because they are so confident that Americans are so disconnected from the reality outside of their own physical sphere that they can convince a critical mass of people that what they're saying is true. And they know that those people are going to be so locked in their own social bubbles of, isolation and they're going to have people just constantly reaffirming their own worldview, that you create this sort of immovable third of the population that will go with MAGA no matter what, and will be able to resist the other 2/3 of the country no matter how much we say this is a lie, you are lying. So that I can flesh that out more later, but I know I'm running on time now, but I think that this is a really critical reason for why Trump and MAGA across the board are feeling so confident in their ability to not be held accountable by the truth. They do not fear truth the way that maybe they did in the first Trump administration, but you're seeing this play out in the courts themselves. Like, judges are saying, you are basing this decision to send the National Guard in on a lie. Like, you have not provided sufficient truth to justify this. So they're constantly pushing against those barriers, whether they be journalistic, whether they be legal, but they are constantly pushing from the top down to overwhelm the forces of truth that give us the ability to say, this is a lie, this is BS, people should not buy into this. So to quickly sum up, where does that put us? What does that mean for our role right now? And I think, especially for folks like us in the media, a huge part of what we need to do right now is bring people back to a basic shared terrain of accepted reality. And that is why I am so, I gravitate so much to struggles like the dollar store one, because again, in communities where people have so little opportunity to connect with each other. I was just back in East Palestine, Ohio, to give an example. That's a town of 4,500 that was devastated by a train derailment in 2.5 years ago. But it was a small, close-knit community. That community is dead. The shops on Main Street are all boarded up. There's one bar in town. There's no bowling alleys. There's so few chances for people to meet and know and interact with each other. And so they're relating more to each other through Facebook, and they're getting pushed further apart. This is the kind of thing I see happening in parts all around the country. And so if you're looking at a community like that, they have dollar stores. People are dependent on those dollar stores. People have different reasons to hate those dollar stores. So if you can find struggles like this that can bring disaffected, connected and alienated people out of their holes, out of their houses, out of their internet, created silos, even just for a bit, to just meet each other and talk about real issues that we can all acknowledge are happening, and talk about how they're impacting us, and have the ability for different stakeholders to have an entryway into that fight without feeling like they have to enter for a certain reason, and if they have a different reason, they're no longer welcome. This is a critical task for all of us. And it can happen anywhere. The last example I'll give, then I'll shut up, is I remember also reporting in rural communities in Wisconsin a couple of years ago who were fighting off the construction of these new massive hog CAFOs or industrial farms where, animals are grown and killed and disposed of in a way that would make Upton Sinclair blush, right? Yeah. But what I saw there was really instructive, because you had coalitions diverse coalitions of community members coming together out of common struggle, but people had different reasons for that. Like the MAGA people didn't want those CAFOs there because the parent company was based in China. You had liberal kind of, more middle of the road folks who didn't want them because of the environmental concerns, the animal rights concerns. You had apolitical people who didn't want them because, frankly, no one wanted them because they were going to tank the property values of everyone in the area, right? So you have these interesting coalitions coming together out of common cause, but you also have the knockoff critical effect of a community that's easier to defeat when those different concerns are exploited and push people apart versus those different forces coming together out of common cause. So wherever we see that happening, wherever we can identify a class enemy and bring people together out of like different strands of class rage, felt impact, whether it be the CAFOs in your neighborhood, the dollar stores and food deserts, the health care that none of us have, the schools in our area going to crap. That's the one thing we have going for us is there's no shortage of issues that are taking poor and working people to the cleaners right now. The question is, how are we prepared to pounce on those and bring people out of their silos and find each other again on a terrain where we can all say, this is real, this is happening, and we can work together to do something about it. Okay, I'll shut up and I'll see my time. But I love you guys. I love the work that you're doing, and I love that that work prompts this much excitement and thought and energy in me, and I know it does the same for everyone listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Max. For those of you who don't know, if you're listening to this program, I'm sure you know who Max Alvarez is, but Max Alvarez is the editor-in-chief of the Real News Network, also host of Working People, the Working People podcast. Max, thanks for the call. I've really enjoyed it.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m., and we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.